Thank you for learning Siebel with the Siebel Hub. We have a unique, comprehensive and always up-to-date collection of Siebel CRM 2021 training classes. We can deliver live online and on-site training in the highest quality with the most experienced instructors. And we also offer a unique modular Siebel CRM 20 and 21 training. Follow the links in the description or on this slide to learn more and learn Siebel with the Siebel Hub. There you go. Okay, so yeah, Siebel Friday, July. It's the 7th Siebel Friday this year. So since I started doing this in January, great to see you again. The crowd is growing. See, there's another Siebel maniac logging in. See, Christian, welcome. Hey, there you go. Yeah, we are about to talk about, of course, the big news, or the not so big news, is Siebel 21.7 is out for a few days, and of course we're gonna poke at it with a stick. So let me get that started. So yeah, I pulled from the usual sources. I pulled the Easter eggs from 21.7, as there's no official features in the release notes. But oops, sorry. So the no official features, but there is an overhaul to the UI. It's automatic somehow. Okay, there's an overhaul to the UI of SMC and SMA, Siebel Management Console, Siebel Migration Application. It's coming. Like, not sure what's happening, but that's like there's some autoplay on the PowerPoint. Okay. There's a documentation enhancement to include the Siebel Tools command line, the new one, the siebdevcli. And also interesting enough, without any documentation, the loyalty partner portal and e-member portal is now active again. Okay. And so let's take a look at the SMC SMA as of 21.7. So I've logged into SMC here, and does it look any different to you guys?
Just what I expected, full screen.
It's now full screen. Like I don't have any old version here, but if you put it side by side, the old version is kind of using 70% of the screen. If you have a very large screen, it's probably embarrassingly big, but you can zoom in anytime. And that's a minor enhancement. It has been, Nick told me just before, it was included as a POC in 21.5. So if you're really keen on getting it, getting the latest UX for SMC, you can have a POC from Oracle support.
It's got a bug still. It doesn't have the submit or cancel buttons.
Okay, it's missing the buttons. Nick says this one has all the buttons, as I can see. It's GA.
Go to configuration. Go to configuration.
Go to configuration, you say. Okay. So let's go to a server. Let's see. So we're running components.
Yeah.
There we go. There's the buttons. Is those buttons missing, you say, Nick, in 21.5?
No. Go back to do parameters instead.
Server parameters.
Yep.
Okay, some buttons here.
And scroll down.
Need to go
See, there's no submit or cancel buttons on the bottom.
I need to go edit mode first, right? Or...
It doesn't matter. It should be there without the edit mode.
Okay.
I already got a bug in submitted to production.
Okay, not nice, nice one.
What's really nice though is the SMA. Oh, the SMA is a godsend with this now, because the full screen makes it really nice.
Yeah, let's go SMA full screen. I zoomed out a little bit, but I can zoom in now. Yeah, it's SMA
execution and migration plans. Those are cool.
Yeah, or execution. You now see the complete list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
That's nice. Yeah. Didn't run much here. Well, yes, that's nice. I have the full list here. Yeah, there you go. Not too bad. I noticed when you resize your browser or have a smaller browser window, it is a bit more responsive, but it was responsive before. So the side menu, it shrinks to side menu once you get a certain resolution, like an iPad. I think it's 1024, probably, guessing.
You're right.
Yeah. Hey, that Brian?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so that's a feature. It was not listed as a feature; it was listed as a bug fix. But it's a nice one, nice touch on this one. Then
Yeah, that was all Nick's idea. I appreciate him bringing it to our attention because it's definitely a small but good improvement, I think.
Yeah, sure. Maybe while we're at it, while we're poking at it, this hover thingy on top of here, the configuration management screens, that's also kind of controversial, I'd say, with some of my customers. The administrators struggle big time to understand that they need to navigate using hover, like put your mouse over it, then you see the menu. And if you really go for responsiveness on, let's say, a mobile device, on a touch screen, there's no hover, right? you can't hover your finger, only a mouse cursor. So that might be another room for, let's say, additional improvements.
I'll mention it to Holger.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all, well, there's more to it than just that. It's also an accessibility issue, probably.
Yeah, like it's people who don't use a mouse.
If you're blind, good luck.
Especially if you're visually impaired. That's, of course, I don't think that's many points in the accessibility report there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The next thing about 21.7 was that for the first time since availability, the siebdevcli command line, the Siebel Tools command line version, may I call it that, is now documented for the first time in Bookshelf, as it appears in the Siebel Tools Guide or using Siebel Tools Guide, where the batch exporting SIF workspaces to SIF is documented. I'm sure it has a lot of other useful switches and features which might be worth documenting there. Maybe talking about future documentation enhancements.
Hey, Alex, do you want me to give you some info on that, or I don't?
Oh yeah, please.
I haven't come to a lot of these. So, okay,
please.
First of all, a couple things in this. One, don't use the from version.
Okay.
If you think about it logically, it won't work.
Right.
And I'm having that removed because if you add a BizComp field in version 1, and then in version 9 you use that field on an applet, and then you export from 4 to 9, you're not going to have the field definition. So don't use from.
Okay. Will it be removed from the?
Yeah. So anyway, that's one note. Okay, the other is we are definitely enhancing this. It will be a couple of things. One is there will be more options for import and export. It will also, the naming is going to get more memorable. So it'll have instead of just having all these like /9 and /2 and /Q that has nothing to do with the letter Q, et cetera, just to make it a little easier to use. Then also this same functionality will be is being made available in Web Tools, and including the workspace stuff for import export. And then the other thing is and then also we intend to expose it via REST API as well.
Oh, cool. Wow, that sounds cool. Yeah.
And so all that stuff is coming over the next several releases. Okay. It's just kind of incremental as we finish bits of it. So it's not like I don't have a specific, but it's as we do little bits.
Right. Yeah, it's used all over the place when you do an update in the post-install database setup. It's used to import stuff into the repository, etc.
Yes.
Right. do incremental table publish. So will that all be documented?
Yes, and we'll probably reformat that section of the guide, because the idea I want to get is that, like, and even the way this is written isn't very good. The /workspace export.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's like the mode, right? Like if you look, everything else has, it's like /C tools config /L ENU /2 version 9, blah, blah, blah. But workspace export does not have any arguments.
You're right. Yeah.
It's like the mode. And so we want to restructure the docs and our examples to just make it a little clearer that you're running in workspace export mode, or, you know, like that's kind of your job that you're doing. Right. And then the rest of it is just the required supporting parameters to make that job happen.
Yeah. Yeah. But
so I would expect to see kind of a different table for each mode. So if you're in this mode, then these parameters apply. If you're in this mode, then these parameters apply, etc.
Okay.
So so also some doc cleanup, as well as kind of the incremental improvements to the.
Yeah, good. Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, much appreciated. That's the reason why we do the Siebel Friday. No, so I've been actually trying the peek and poke exercise. Run it blank, you know, without any parameters. It just gives you the usual parameters for.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. Then this should give you. I'm going to ask them to change this. So if you type that, it'll give you the modes, and then, you know, and then you could type help for the mode and get the details for that mode.
Right.
You know, the way that like VBox manage and all those types of things.
Yeah, sure. That would be helpful too for guys using the command line, like me. Just type it blank and then see what options you have, basically. You know, like with.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that. I'm glad you brought it up, because I hadn't thought about that, about the, you know, like actual runtime. I was thinking about the docs, but I'm with you. I'd rather get it right here.
Like the repo upgrade gives us, like this great list of parameters, and you can work with it. Okay, yeah, great. So that I like siebdevcli. I like the idea that really think of it like a Siebel tools. A headless Siebel tools executable, like siebdev executable has a UI, and this one is just command line, and makes all this accessible on Linux or on Unix as well, not just Windows. It's a great thing to have. Yeah. Okay, I'll remove that from version. Thank you. All right. The next thing that I found when I poke at a new update, I always run the upgrade, the repository upgrade. So that is optional, but it gives you that integration workspace with all the stuff since the last update. So I always run it on a very old version, and so I get everything, and then I can start comparing. Okay, what's included in this one? And I found lots of loyalty views and 2 loyalty applications being included in 21.7, which the applications basically are reactivated. They are the OpenUI version of the loyalty partner portal and loyalty e-member portal. They're now available, but it's included in the repository upgrade. So if you need those applications, or you haven't created your own version in the past 10 years, then you can get them through the repository upgrade. So I checked on that. It's nowhere. I couldn't find any documentation really. It's just pops up. So here's the that workspace that's created, and let me sort by object type. Yeah, lots of app. That's all the stuff, by the way. That's the Siebel ERM has been included since 21.1, if I recall correctly. The clinical stuff is, Nick, you know better, it's 20.11 or 10.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was there for quite a while. Yeah, so the loyalty applications are now active. Once you rebase or merge upstream this integration workspace, you will have active applications. You can run the object manager. All right. So what else do we have? Oh, that's it already. So 3 things I found noteworthy about 21.7. And anybody who tried to apply it, update? Any experience?
I just applied it this morning. I haven't played with it yet.
Okay. Of course, a lot of bug fixes reported in the release notes as usual. So it's the latest and greatest Siebel 21.7. Get it while it's fresh. Okay, I always talk about a little bit about the path to 21.x as we are in the middle of Siebel 21. Of course, important to understand, you have to run the MDE to run the actual binary update, to update to the MDE topology if you're below 21.1 or lower. And the post-install database update has to run. Like I had a discussion previously with a customer. They are upgrading to 21.4 currently. And there have been lots of discussions, should they run post-install database update of the 21.4 installer? And say, no, it's not necessary because you're upgrading, you get everything until that version. But later when you update to 21.7, say, then you have to run it because it's the only way to get the mandatory repository mandatory seed data stuff. And the repository upgrade is the optional part. So which you run only when you want to uptake the changes that are marked as optional by Oracle. And also important to understand there are administrative changes. When you cross a lot of versions, you might have some even then mandatory. So it's not just optional, but it depends on your implementation. Like it comes to my mind, the debug server in development environments. If you want to use the script debugger, you update from 20.6 to 21.7. You can use the script debugger, which has been introduced in 2011, but you have to set up the debug server. So that's an administrative task. So it's another thing on your checklist or your to-do list. All right.
Oh, something about that too on the debugger. If you have a dual environment like Windows and Linux, you have to set that debugger on the same server that you have your web tools on.
Okay, good point. Yeah, so it's
because originally I usually install all that type of stuff on Windows and never could get it to work. Then I found out it has to be on the same server as the web tools is on. And the reason for that, it goes out and grabs the application in the GUI based on that your URLs and stuff. So,
you're right. Yeah. It concatenates URLs. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's not too big a problem because development environments are usually small, single server maybe, or so you have everything in one server.
You're absolutely right. Right now, it can only basically the debugger service can only run on one server right now. That's a known limitation. We wanted to get it out there. We will be working on getting it to work across multiple servers, so that if you do have a gigantic development team, with multiple instances of web tools, object managers running on different servers, that it should all work. But there's some trickiness there. When you had the script debugger and tools, it was inter-process communication on the same box, right? Between, and so it was kind of easy. In this scenario, your OMs could be scattered all over the place, and so you can't use inter-process communication. You have to use callbacks and all kinds of complicated stuff like across different systems, and it's just like I said, we wanted to get something out. But it is understood that it's a limitation and something we need to address, because we do have some customers that do have many web tool servers. But
okay, great news. Yeah. So yeah, this is the slide I always show at this point, where this is just the graphics. There's a very fast track to an update. If you just see the red boxes, there's two things you have to do. All the other stuff is really optional, but it can amount to a lot of work, especially if you're crossing a lot of versions, like 1 year worth of Siebel. And you use it, you want to set up that debug server, you have changes to the topology, that 64-bit Java requirement for IMAP, or you're even upgrading your OBIE to OAS. Well, that's another story. So there might be a lot of administrative or configuration overhead. For test production environments, RR, it's inherently shorter, because all that, if you did any repository changes, like through the repository upgrade, or applying configuration changes from the release notes, you will transport those by using the migration application after updating the RR. And so that's a inherently shorter process, as it always is. Development takes longer to update. And following up on that discussion I had with a customer earlier this week, I now tend to include that upgrade versus update slide, just to be on the clear side that you can upgrade from 7.5.3 to 21.7, which is an incredibly long span of versions. But of course, it will take you months to get there. It's like a big upgrade project, two-step upgrade, repository merge, open UI, all the ditching Internet Explorer, all that kind of stuff. But if you're on 17.0, well, nobody's on 17.0, I hope, but 17.1, 2, 3, or 18 dot something, 19, 20, 21 dot something, the update should not take longer than a few days. I think. Well, I've done several by now, and it was done in a few hours, even, or days if you wish, to take everything into account from development, test, and production. So how about your experience? So the projects you're in, have you been doing updates recently to 21 dot something?
We just went from 20.6 to 21.5 in production. Went pretty smooth, except for ActiveMQs giving me some heartache in production. Didn't have any issues in Val, but production is having all types of issues.
Okay.
ActiveMQ. But everything else, smooth as silk.
Nice to hear. Yeah, good to hear.
I'll be doing Sandbox here pretty soon.
So this is Chris talking. We are upgrading a 20-year-old application coming from IP16. And we just copied the dev environment and the database and are doing an analytical first step upgrade kind of pilot phase.
Yeah, Sandbox. You're doing a Sandbox up. IP16.
Something like this. IP16, yes.
That's not too old.
So not too old. So we had some trouble, but at the end, the upgrade was much better than on 18.11 that we had with CSS or Mobiliar. Well, so I think it's getting better, really.
Yeah. So also there are lots of bug fixes to the upgrade utilities and binaries and scripts and whatever. So
we just started with 21.6, so it was just out when we had the first clone, and now we have a problem with inspecting. So the inspect doesn't work on the right way, but the upgrade itself, so repo merge and DB upgrade, it was okay. So,
yeah, good to hear. Yeah. So,
but yeah,
so,
I like it. So.
Yeah. Anyone?
Christian, I don't want to derail it. What can you maybe? I don't know if there's a chat in here or something. Send me the SR you're having with the inspect problem. This is Brian Kelly from Oracle. I'm just curious to read what issue you're having, and maybe I'll have some insight for you.
Yeah.
If you have an SR on it.
Yeah.
Yes, I have one. It's for Siemens. So do you want the number?
Yeah, just drop it in the
there's a chat
chat,
feature in GoToMeeting. You find
okay. I drop you the SR number.
Yeah, just whenever you get it, and then I'll take a look.
Yeah,
and we won't. And Alex can keep talking. I don't want to derail him.
Sure. Thanks, Brian, for this.
Brian, when we are talking here, I would always try to give you a thank you for your presentation on the virtual summit 1 year ago about workspace and incremental deployment. And these are the slides I always take when we have a discussion, what's right and wrong on working with workspaces.
Thank you.
So this is my Bible for workspace hierarchy.
I'm told by John Bedford that it is the most downloaded presentation in Siebel presentation history.
Cool, that's something. Okay, I see in the chat Frank has said he's working on maybe one of the biggest leaps, 7.7 to 21.5, which is quite big, yes. Getting in the red corner. So that is like, and Jason says they're updating, Jason, not upgrading, from 20.9 to 21.4. Great. And Sabi has asked about IP14 to 21.7, and Guru has jumped in. You see the path here from IP14. That's the blue path. Basically, you have an probably already OpenUI enabled IP.
Yeah, his case.
Yeah. So IP14, and it's just a one-step upgrade to 21.7. Yeah.
Okay, but you have to go through this IP17, right?
No, it's direct. So since 21.2, you have the MDE installer, which does away with the requirement to install 17.0 first.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And don't believe anyone who tells you to upgrade to 17.0 first. And that's yeah, I don't want to use the word here because we're on record, but that's the word with B. So you upgrade always to the latest. You install the latest Siebel version, you upgrade to it. That's.
Mm-hmm.
It has
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Welcome.
That's admittedly a pretty large change after years of requiring base installs. So I understand why some people are unaware. I mean, that's a big change to the way we used to always do things.
Yeah. Yes, but those rumors they materialize sometimes in projects where people really install 17.0 and then attempt an upgrade. That's the wrong way of doing it, and that it results in all kinds of issues and endless support sessions and months being literally weeks or months being lost. Yeah. Okay. Nick asked for the workspace presentation of Brian. So Brian, if you have a link handy, that would be great. There it is.
Oh, he was already ready.
There you go. Thank you, Brian. That's getting interactive here. Jason says in 20.10, yeah, ARIA labeled by was improved, and that's a different way of addressing the labels, right, Jason? And now if you have custom JavaScript that addressed the labels using a different technique, then you might have to revise or refactor those JavaScripts, right? And now it's much better since then. Okay. Wow. So, yeah, great news also to hear that projects are out there still upgrading. I think I don't have any numbers. Oracle has those numbers, and they might share it in the next CAB meeting or so. How many % of customers are on, let's say, IP 18 or, well, not IP 18, Siebel 18 or higher. I guess that's a lot already. So getting all the feedback on the Siebel Hub and YouTube channels and on there must be a lot of upgrades running currently. And yeah, speaking of upgrades, and there's a big learning curve if you come especially from 7.7. It's high interactivity world. It's it's ancient. It's Internet Explorer, ActiveX stuff, and you have to, for example, you have to understand OpenUI all along the way. You have literally catch up on 15 years of development, and that's a learning curve there. And speaking of that learning curve, I just would like to point you again, and I know I do this every time, but and I know it's the wrong audience, but it's the Siebel Hub training page where we are proud, Richard and I are proud to have a lot of, not just the Siebel 21 workshop where you learn about all what's new in Siebel since Siebel 17, we also have, for example, OpenUI basics and professional classes where you can really learn, or your developers can really learn OpenUI from scratch, going all the way, not missing anything, including the latest 20.9 context renderers for mobile, and including JavaScript frameworks. There's Vue.js examples. And not sure, you know about this page that I just put into the chat. You can check it out or contact me anytime you're interested for your team. What I also wanted to tell you is that the OpenUI content we made available for download for self-study, because we understand nobody wants to kind of wait for a scheduled training or to go the formal way. You can just go to the Siebel Hub shop and download, swipe your credit card, literally. So just scrolling down there, the OpenUI. Yeah, so we have made available the slide decks and exercises with solution files available for download, so you can do self-study for OpenUI. And I'm mentioning this for a reason, because currently I notice quite an uptick in interest on OpenUI, which is interesting because it's 10 years in the making almost. This year is the 9th year anniversary of OpenUI. I spent a lot of my Siebel career with OpenUI. Wrote some books on it. And it's kind of now it's picking up with developers as they go, and as more and more requirements come in to, or correct me if I'm wrong, when I put this as a discussion point, more and more requirements come in as to the UX of Siebel. So when you upgrade to Siebel 21, you also want to have a very modern user experience. You just don't want to have the vanilla Siebel or the retro Siebel style anymore. So what's your experience with that? So if you look at your projects, is there more demand for changing the user interface or user experience of Siebel than before?
Not here. They like it just like it is. They don't want much change.
Okay, fair enough. Like I just looked up the
don't fix it.
The blog post that I wrote about that. Literally, that was Siebel. What Siebel looked like when the OpenUI came out. Now I almost forgot. There was the gray and that screaming house. I have nightmares still.
Here with me and my developer, it's OpenUI is more for learning how to do the scripting for the PM and PR stuff, because bscripts will eventually go away.
Right.
But until Brian takes it away from us, we're still using it and still developing with it.
Yeah, so classic OpenUI, as I would call it. PM, PR, do a little bit of CSS to make it just right for the users. That's cool. This is a screenshot of 7.7 or 8, but I've seen a Siebel application that is 20.6 and looks almost exactly like this. So people took a lot of effort to go retro, to make it look like the old Siebel, which personally I I never found it really bad. Liked it a lot. But times change and user groups change, and taste is not to be discussed about. So anyone has a retro UX requirement when you upgrade, like the 7.7 upgrade you're doing? Is there any requirement make it look exactly as before?
I would not suggest doing this.
Of course,
because when you roll out something new, you have to have a new UI, and then you have your new style, and then you see something.
Right, but sometimes the user community is very strong, and management is very strong, and so there's a strong retrograde movement.
Yes, and there are a lot of fears and a lot of costs when you switch. But if you never switch, then your application gets very old by feel. So
yes, so it's of course it's yeah. Jason,
we got lucky. We told them we're going to a new version, and that's what you get. Get used to it. When you only have two of us developing, you don't have the time to go and retro anything. Just get used to it.
Yeah. Jason,
I've seen the screenshot. It's very nostalgic. What I appreciate about this particular look and feel is it's very efficient use of space. When we went to later themes, the rows were much more spread out, even on the form applets. And that was one of the first major differences that our users noticed.
Yeah,
was that there's a lot more white space, which is good and bad. 10 plus years ago, monitor resolution was smaller, and so you needed to be more efficient.
Right, now you have bigger monitors. It would look very, very dense if you would use that on a bigger monitor, or very weird because it just consumes 50% of the space with a lot of white space around it. No. I worked with a German customer. They actually, they wanted to migrate to another CRM, which should not be named here. And when the user first experienced the other CRM, they actually had a word for it. The data density was so poor for them. They basically all they had on screen was five fields or something, and a lot of graphics. And they hated it, and they went back to Siebel, which is pure data on the screen with a bit of, let's say, chrome around it, and that's it. So well, and going forward, let's say thinking forward, this is from our friends at Ideaport, who came up with this brilliant Nexus bridge and Nexus face, and I'm not getting any money from them, just for calling them out here. I know some of you work with them, and of course, Siebel can look totally different if you invest in UX and you say, okay, let's build this from the ground up, but it's still Siebel underneath. It's still Siebel OpenUI, but on top of it, there's a layer rendered by Vue.js or React or whatever framework your web developers fancy. And using the Nexus bridge, you can connect up to the PM layer, and that is something I see picked up a lot in recent projects. When there's a new project with, let's say, making Siebel available on tablets, I see a lot of uptake of this technique. Use the Nexus bridge plus a modern JavaScript framework, which is of course a lot of money you put into this and effort. It's not just a bit of style sheet and a bit of PM PR. Any words about this? Any points from you? Has anyone done any work with those frameworks and Nexus Bridge? So take that as a no. Okay, but maybe when you consider your next project, putting Siebel on mobile, Frank says not for now, but you're looking into it for the future. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. If you like, focus on upgrading right now, Frank. You focus on getting the thing up and running in 21.5, 6, 7, or whatever your target version is. And then once it's stable and you're running for a few months in production, then there might be a new project. It's a project on its own to, well, recreate the UX of the desktop application, or even create mobile or mobile-ish applications. Application I can use on both the desktop and mobile. So users can just choose the device. So if they're on the road, they choose the tablet or phone, and if they're in the office, they choose the laptop, and it looks good on everything. And if you're looking into the future or in the present even more, there's no screenshot there, but 21.6 has introduced the Commerce REST API, which let's not go into too much detail. There's a recording on 21.6 out there on the Siebel Hub YouTube channel. But Oracle is building a product, or has built a product, DX4C or DX4X products. DX4C partially uses Siebel as a backend, so it has a rich UX built in a totally different environment. But using the REST API of Siebel, it's communicating with Siebel in terms of data and functionality, calling workflows, or doing the most complicated thing you can do in Siebel probably, order management through REST. And that, of course, is another signal for the future, is say, okay, let's just use a application development framework of choice, be it Oracle, Oracle Cloud, Visual Builder. I think that product is now renamed, but Visual Builder was it, or anything else, literally. And then just use Siebel in a headless manner using the REST API. And that's not just the future, that's the present we talk about already. No, it's a thing. So is there any projects around that starts thinking into that direction, using more and more Siebel REST and the custom UI on top of it?
Would love to do something like that, but no resources to even play with it.
Yeah, Jason.
Well, I agree with Christian.
Okay, yeah, it's a reason.
Theory.
Sorry, go ahead.
The ability that we have to manipulate OpenUI now, I think, is somewhat blunted that enthusiasm around just putting a different UX on it completely. But having the REST APIs available to us makes that process easier in theory, but there's still so much that one would have to accommodate to replace. I don't really think it's worth the effort at this point.
Yeah, well, Oracle certainly did it, and in the process, Oracle realized they need to rebuild the Siebel architecture to cloud native. They'll talk about additional costs. Yeah,
they can bear those costs.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Brian. Okay, but I hear it's a thing, because or even combine it with, you can use the Nexus bridge and maybe do some calls using the REST API, right? Nothing holding you back. The beloved DevPops, which I bring up every time. DevPops, the toolbars here, just to represent it. It uses a lot of REST calls in the background, because it's just the thing that I can do to even customize web tools, which you shouldn't do, but there's the example is out there, and these REST calls are perfect for purpose because I can do them from the browser. they result in an additional session on a different object manager. So that's for scalability. That's great. I don't compromise the current session, and I get data back immediately. Well, almost. It's very fast. The REST API can be very fast if you just use the minimum, let's say, specify the minimum fields of the data API. So why not combine it with traditional OpenUI? Use the REST API a bit more. That's something I'm looking into right now with a customer, because they have severe performance problems calling all sorts of business services, and all they want is like some aggregated data. I say, well, why not do it on the EI object manager?
That's what Dan did in the Mobilia project. So they made Ajax calls via REST to load data in applets asynchronously.
Right, asynchronous, yeah.
The UI running and then a delayed load on
lazy loading stuff. That's perfect. Yeah, great example, Chris. Thanks. Yeah, that's so it's being done. Yeah, so all the technology layers of Siebel are out there.
Yes.
Use them. All right. So that was something I wanted to talk about, and because also following up just on what I'm doing, what I've done the past weeks is supporting customers going mobile, and I put together the current, let's say, with the current technology layers. I found 5 distinct options to use Siebel on mobile. So let's not forget there are mobile applications, right? Oracle provides 6 applications currently. You have to license them, like Sales Mobile, Service Mobile, which are really optimized, built for tablets. But recently with 20.9 or higher, you have that Redwood, quote unquote, style for smartphone UX. So you can run them natively on tablets and smartphones. Desktop is not included here because it's like not designed for desktop. It looks weird. Of course it works. And the classic Siebel desktop applications, you can run, if you trim them down, like, creating smaller applets or smaller views, or using OpenUI a little bit to trim down the stuff, you can run them on tablet-sized devices, and they are responsive. They recognize the touch screen. And then there's, of course, if you invest a little bit more in traditional OpenUI, that's what I would call the OpenUI custom web app. So you go beyond. You do an additional effort. You go beyond the usual stuff you do. So you invest a little bit more, maybe even something called UX. And the more effort you put in, the more developers you put to the task, you get a nice looking application, which is Siebel OpenUI, jQuery and all that, but it's tailored to the device. I have that Siebel to phone. The Siebel to phone example I have out on GitHub is an example how to overlay each and every Siebel view with an additional PR layer, and that results in the UI you see. That's not a mock-up, that's a real Siebel application here. It's Siebel Sales. It's not mobile, it's Siebel Sales.
Terry Smythe.
Yeah. And well, that's just putting some OpenUI to work here. Of course, as you can imagine, it's not something done in an afternoon, but it's perfectly doable, and you end up with nothing that can't be understood by a Siebel developer. And now, if you go beyond that and say, okay, let's use some different framework. We have hired the outsourced developers, and they are experts in Vue.js or React, just to name the 2 most popular frameworks right now. Those guys know React and Vue to the core, but they don't know Siebel. So you have to put them together in a team with Siebel developers. So that's another layer of effort there, organizational. And then probably using the Nexus bridge, because that helps the Vue.js developers a lot. They don't need to understand Siebel really. Of course, you need to tell them a little bit about Siebel first. But then they can create in a surprisingly short amount of time. They can create huge and beautiful applications with those frameworks that still are Siebel OpenUI applications, but the rendering is completely outsourced to Vue.js or React. That's of course another evolutionary step. And currently, I see a lot of uptake on this because there's a huge community of web developers that understands the modern frameworks well, and a lot of Siebel projects start investing in that. And the fifth approach is the digital app, where just say, okay, you use any environment, any framework of choice to create maybe an app that runs on every phone, etc., Electron or what they're called. I'm not current on this. And you use the REST API. So the benefit, of course, is you have the small, in terms of footprint, you don't have all the old JavaScript from Siebel, that 7 megs of core JS and whatever. You don't need that. You have your own custom application in the browser, and there's a backend that does some REST calls in a clever manner. But of course, that's the highest effort you can probably do now. All right. So that's a little bit of UX discussion here. What's possible today with Siebel OpenUI or beyond the REST API? Let me check the chat. Okay, there's nothing new in the chat here. Okay, anybody wants to chime in on recent Siebel 21 adventures? Anything you want to see in the next Siebel Friday?
Well, we can tell them, you and I talked about executing a workflow for a REST call.
Yeah, that's a good one, yeah.
We did that with help from Oracle support. They got it so I could call REST and it would execute a workflow.
Okay, execute.
Kind of nice.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yeah, I put it down as a topic for next time. Yeah. So we can chat about this if you want to demonstrate something on your side, or I can put up an example. Okay, a good one. Yeah, call a workflow through REST. That's a hidden feature. Let's call it that.
I think I asked support to put it into Bookshelf because it's simple. It was easier than we thought.
Yeah, it's perfectly simple. You just have to get your mind around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From my perspective, this one could very be good to build up some testing data and testing framework to use this.
Which this one?
Workflows via REST.
Okay, to use the workflow invocation via REST for testing.
Yes, and then you can create some data for your unit tests or things like that. Or you can start some processes just for testing.
Yeah, sure.
It could be a cool feature for some test automation.
Well, combined with the test automation you have, because there's a REST API for that as well now, so you can create data sets and the execution configurations for Jenkins. You can create them through REST. So yeah, and use a workflow to create some test data first and then delete that test data later. Yeah.
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah. So. Okay, so it seems like the next Siebel Friday is focusing on the REST API a little bit more. Yeah, why not? Okay, thanks, Sabi. Yeah, thanks. Have a great weekend. Sabi's signing off.
Thank you. Nice weekend to all of you.
Yeah, thanks. Nice to have you.
Bye.
So yeah, before we close, let me just point your attention to the Siebel Hub YouTube channel, where this recording will be put up shortly. Still managing to have a monthly Update summary for last ones for 21.7. Still, we have all the recordings from the Siebel Fridays there for your pleasure. Also check out the other videos we have and playlists. They're free. Siebel Hub is free. Siebel Hub YouTube channel free as well. And contact me if you're looking for any content, can't find it. We have a lot of stuff out there over the past 15 years. All right. Then, yeah, if you want to stick around for a while, I'll keep the session open. I'll stop the recording right now.